Nate here, Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, and today we're going to be talking about Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition monster, the Illithid, A.K.A. the Mindflayer, A.K.A. the brain-sucking monstrosity. With me, I have...
I'm Ted.
Dave.
Sorry to cut you off, but he's not a monstrosity. He's an aberration.
Yes.
Much different.
Very
Much
different forms of terribleness.
So this segment that we do, we've done a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons monsters before.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we're going to go over the monster and then we're going to think of like cool ways to use it that maybe people aren't using them.
Absolutely. So basically, you've got it's a high level monster for our group anyway. It's a challenge 7, and it's got all kinds of awesome abilities that you can use to tackle.
Well, plus that challenge 7 means something completely different in 5th edition.
That's for just him.
Just and then any other edition. The XP budget is kind of weird because of a CR1 for a CR1 party may be completely different. Or a CR2. Mm-hmm. There's definitely some CR2s and 3s that can like one shot.
Absolutely.
Characters of that level. So.
Yeah, it's definitely you still have to figure out based on the party strength and how deadly you want the encounter to be, and
one of the problems with Mind Flayers is they're not going to be by themselves because they like to travel with thralls.
Yes, all different kinds of things. In the book, I don't think it mentions many of these thralls, does it?
Nah, but any intelligent race with a brain, a Mind Flayer wants to get his tentacles in there and wiggle them around.
I mean, it's got a power called Dominate Monster.
Okay, well, anything you want.
Yeah.
If your Illithids hang out in the Underdark, then any Underdark creature is acceptable, or hey, could have gone above ground and snatched something.
Absolutely.
And then if you're more planier Illithids, like spacefaring or something like that, like alien technology kind of feel to them, then you can have anything you want, really.
Or he could just be running the local artisan guild.
Yeah, or a yacht club.
Yeah, as a front. I mean, the Illithid is just one of those monsters that, you're not going to only encounter them in the wilderness. They're the kind of thing that's going to infiltrate society.
Absolutely. Very rarely do you get that nice monster that's intelligent enough to be able to, manipulate and do behind the scenes activity. And here it's exactly that. You've got a situation where it's like, you want to have an interesting villain. Well, you can always use the Illithid, or if you're in that situation where, the party manages to capture or kill your villain, that you have set up long before the time. Well, you can just be like, well, I'm going to insert an Illithid. He was the one controlling that guy, and now
he was the puppet master.
Yeah, that's a good campaign saver right there. That's a campaign saver tip.
Now you've just got the ability to be like, okay, well, now I need to expand upon this because this whole thing changed. But,
well, and like Nate mentioned, the villainous yacht club, where we did a thing called Terrible Terrain for as a live event for BrigadeCon, and we talked about building encounters, and we did like a low level one, a middle level one, and a higher level one, and the premise for it was that an Illithid was actually controlling this evil organization of aristocrats. He was manipulating them from behind the scenes, and he wasn't even part of the encounter that we were technically getting into.
Right. Yeah, and with that encounter, he was actually the variant Mind Flayer that has not only the innate spell casting, the psionics, but it also had the magical capacity to disguise itself and seem as kind of like blend in. So the Arcanist Mind Flayer is kind of the perfect infiltrator for, high level infiltrator, but he can show up and start a guild of thieves, and no one will ever know that he's not just a master thief or something of that like.
That is all quite true. Or he could just be disguised as the granny selling apples.
He could also do that.
Because with their evil apples.
They're evil apples. Yeah, I guess it would depend on what kind of mindset. I mean, they're kind of, the aberrants, the alien mind.
Now,
so
there's a lot of lore. There's a lot of background that goes behind the Illithids, the Mind Flayers. I mean, I believe this is one of the Gary Gygax originals. This is from back in the day,
Right.
and a lot of people expanded upon it, and you know,
And they get 2 pages in the actual Monsters Manual.
yeah,
which is pretty spiffy.
That's impressive for a monster, but the thing is, like, they're weird. They have this combination of they're from space, or they're from the far realm, or they're from both. So they got this really colorful history, and they also kind of almost live in this like hive mind society where they're ruled by a giant brain, essentially.
The Mega Brain.
And they just keep feeding this brain, and it kind of like it controls everything. It controls, it runs Illithid society. And one of the things that is really kind of weird and creepy about the Illithids is the fact that they're so foreign, they're so alien. You don't really know what their motivations are.
Not only do you is their brain that alien in that, but so is their language. Qual is right out of the monster manual. Qual is written in 4-line stanzas and is so alien in construction that non-Illithids must resort to magic to discern its meaning. I just think that's hysterical.
Yeah, and that's their written language, right?
That's their written language.
And they also it's like a Braille.
It's similar to Braille, and they read it with their tentacles, not with hands or eyes. So
because using your eyes is for such losers. Well, no. So and then also like think about even in the various books, all the monsters that the Illithid are responsible for. Intellect Devourers. They make them as pets.
Yep.
Well, or for infiltrating people by sticking them in the back of someone's skull. The Dugar basically are derived from being enslaved by the Illithids, so they vastly changed them.
They captured dwarves, and over the eons, centuries, whatever it was, they slowly got twisted and warped into Grey Dwarves.
The Gith.
Yeah.
Githzero and Githyanki. They also basically formed them and the Split. So, and they're just the ones I can think of off the top of my head. In previous editions, there was a Brain Golem.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there's the Brain Golem.
Yeah, we cannot mention the Brain Golem. So they like to get in there and kind of tinker with things that really people shouldn't be tinkering with, and so there's all kinds of interesting things you could do with this monster. From any one of those standpoints, you could introduce them through, an intellect devour and getting discovered in an NPC, and then it's like a mystery. Well, how did that happen? Where did that come from? Could lead back to Illithids. Maybe the Dugars actually seek out player character parties to help them against an Illithid problem. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, which evil do you side with, right? The Githyanki, they go on Illithid hunts. So you could come across a party hunting for, an Illithid. Or you could come across the battle, and it's like, what side do you help?
You just hang out in the corner and wait.
Hide and cower. So these are all aspects of the Illithid.
So with those are different things that you can do, but you could also have an entire campaign centered around an Illithid, either as we said earlier, in town or in a cave structure or outside, because with all of their slaves, you could just be encountering slaves after slaves that just get more and more powerful as you're getting closer to what is your end goal.
And you still may not know it's an Illithid.
Yeah, you could be thinking that it's an enchanter or somebody that might have a powerful artifact or magic item that's taking over people's minds.
So there's plenty of ways to use the Illithid, to vast campaign ideas.
That then there's also several forms of aberrant Illithids as well. Like I believe there's an Illithid Lich somewheres, or a vampire. I think I've seen
an Illithilich.
And which I think they consider. I think the Mind Flayers themselves consider that to be an abomination. So like you could be working with Illithids to bring down another Illithid and not even know it.
Because they could look like regular adventurers, or they could actually have regular adventurers dominate it to do what they need to do.
Well, yeah. So like, there's definitely like when you're talking about using Mind Flayers and Illithids in your campaign, it's definitely one of those monsters that shouldn't just pop up. Like it should mean something. And then, you know, when I think Illithid, I think in Mind Flayer, I think layer upon layer of intrigue and mystery and secrecy. Yeah. One of the hard things about using a monster like this is they're so vastly superior intellectually from us, the people writing the adventure. Like, to even try and think like one is a challenge all by itself.
You gotta pour extra work into it because you want to try and be one step ahead or multiple steps ahead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're looking at 17 wisdom and charisma, 19 intelligence right out of the
a
box.
base 19 in intelligence is
So,
pretty powerful.
you know, if you want to say, well, I've got an exceptional Illithid, you know, then it's
this is the average guy.
you know, so you're talking about, you know, a tier above what your adventurers are going to be dealing with. So it makes it challenging because if you're not playing that chess game where you're moves ahead of the adventurers, then you're not playing the Illithid correctly.
Yeah, my suggestion to the DMs out there is you might have to cheat a little bit to compensate. Yeah, so I don't think I've used a lot of Mind Flayers over the years. I think I find it to be an intimidating monster, much like a dragon, where like.
See, I can run a dragon, you know, and you've run dragons numerous times. To my recollection, I'm not sure you've ever, you know, pulled the Mind Flayer card. You might have done it once as a kind of bizarre random encounter, but I mean, you've never used it as a campaign source. You've never used it as you know, even like a session thing.
Yeah, like I said, I really feel like they require special care. And I've run a lot of dragon encounters too, and I've run a lot of dragon encounters badly. You know, the dragon is just a special monster, and needs, you know, it shouldn't. Again, it's another monster. You shouldn't run into it like an owlbear. Yeah, they're just above that. So I don't know. What do you got? Anything that you want to add about the Mind Flayer?
I like that they've incorporated it says it's innate spell casting, but it's still sonic powers. So they still have the sonic monsters in the monsters manual, but they don't have necessarily. It's just like, oh well, you know, instead of regular magic, it's just, you know, mental magic. So kind of like gives that mentalist sonic flair without actually having to have it, you know, in the game yet. And they get some powerful attacks for. They said they had the dominate. They also have the. They have a blast as well, right?
Oh yeah, they have to have some kind of. They have a mind blast.
Yeah, mind blast.
It's 4 die 8 damage.
You can't even be an Illithid without a mind blast.
It's got to be able to stun people and take them out and
eat their brains.
Have fresh brain.
Yummy, yummy.
So, you know, what about a good Illithid?
A good Illithid, if you actually had one, I would think it would be like a social outcast kind of. You know, like the radical thinker that I think this my society is incorrect, and I'm going to go off and do this crazy, convoluted
if you
concept.
If you want to stick, you know, closer to the Mind Flayer, but make him good, you know, make him chaotic good, and make him like, oh well, I am vastly superior, so I am going to help people. He still has to deal with his issues because he eats brains. That's how he, you know, how he consumes. But, you know, if you use him as kind of a, you know, a messed up hero trying to do stuff, and you could have him either failing or succeeding, but he's behind the scenes manipulating all these things, quote unquote, for the better of, you know, the area.
Or maybe he's the vigilante at night that stalks criminals, and you're like, oh, we got to meet this guy. If you're like a lawful good guy, you're like, because we have to bring him to justice. And he says he can't be killing people without trials and ripping their head off, or whatever he does. And then, like, they're always decapitated so that you don't know that they're missing their brain. Yeah. So you never find the head. So it's like, this guy's messed up. And you're trying to find him, and you're trying to capture him, and then you find out that he's actually like a superhero.
He's an urban ranger. He's a beastmaster, and he feeds the emptied out head to his companion.
Yeah, maybe it's like a giant pig or something like that. And like, oh, yummy.
Get rid of the evidence.
Oh my god.
Or maybe he's got a pocket mimic.
Yeah, maybe.
Little mimic in a portable hole. We're all good.
Yeah. Well, what I was actually thinking though.
I want to do this, Illithid.
I was thinking not as a player character, but maybe as a benefactor to a party. Like he's their sponsor, and they don't know he's an Illithid.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, like you can introduce Illithids, and they're ilk because they're trying to take out the party's sponsor.
Yeah, you're like, why are all these Illithids? It's like the Illithid war.
Why are they
on
so
this-
angry?
Yeah.
Why are they so angry? What did you do?
Yes. And,
Well, they pull out the tentacles.
what are you stroking that's invisible right now? Oh, nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
So so there's definitely some out of the box ways that you can throw an Illithid into your game, or or a colony of Illithids if that's what you feel like you need to do.
So I don't want to let this go without mentioning what we said off camera about the Qualith being used as warning signs. So
Yeah,
if-
instructions, signs, and warning signs.
So you could totally have the party. I mean, even if you don't want to use an Illithid, but just want to scare the crap out of your party. you go. They're dungeon delving and doing whatever.
Like
and
in a
they come-
broken down, buried.
they come across
Illithid apparatus.
this weird writing on the walls. Everybody, even the sage is like, "Oh, I can't read this." The wizards bust out his read magic, and poof, it gives this this warning sign about, "Oh, there's a sphere of annihilation beyond this this portal."
Sphere of Annihilation storage room.
And
It's all dark in there.
They learn that it's written in Qualith. So if you've got savvy players, you've just warned them about the presence of Illithids in the area. So hopefully they're crapping themselves.
No. It's a sphere of annihilations, but it's actually instructions on how to use their garbage disposal system.
Yeah. It's like, place anything that you don't want to see ever again in this room. And then close the door.
So, it's just a way of being able to, essentially frighten the players without actually having to go through the process of putting a Mind Flayer in the actual game.
Just put their writing in.
Just put their writing in.
I really think it would be a terrible trap if you just had if they had some kind of way of having light switches. So like light panels you touch, and then it's like, oh, it's really dark in this room. I don't know what it says. Well, let's see what it says. I'll turn the light switch on, and then that player's gone forever. Or he loses an arm. I don't know. With Sphere of Annihilation, did you if you touch it, all of you goes, or just the part that touches it?
Yeah, I'm not certain on that one.
I think it would be cool.
I
if
think
it
you
was the
actually
part
have to get in it. Like, you have to go into it completely.
Oh, well, that's not as exciting.
Like in the original Tomb of Horrors, it was a hole too small for most players to fit in. I just happen to have one that could shrink.
So you shrank and like, all right,
I can
let's
get
explore.
in there. Yeah.
And boom, gone.
Yeah. So it's when you completely enter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
But as a DM, feel free to change or modify.
I think
any
a
rules.
one-handed player, a one-armed player would be pretty.
We've had a 9-figured rogue at the table.
Yeah, 9-figure rogue.
Well, wasn't it more like 9 3/4 or something?
It was
or
9 and a half.
9.5-figure rogue.
That aggravated damage will get you every time.
Well, yeah. So that's some interesting ways to use the language, and without putting any Illithids in.
Yeah, one of the things that we did is in our Terrible Terrain we had talked about. Some of you guys may have seen it, maybe you haven't. But instead of doing this standard Underdark thing, we decided we want to do something a little bit different, and we came up with a magical submarine.
Yep.
And we also came up with the idea that, if Illithids were spacefaring creatures, that their ship actually crashed here and is at the bottom of the ocean, and they use it for a base. So that was kind of like some things that are a little bit different.
Yeah. Originally, we were considering for Griffin Gaff campaign putting it in the middle, like in the Underdark somewhere. But then
And
we're
we're
let's change it up.
Let's do something fun.
Yeah.
We never do anything fun anymore.
Pirates and alien abominations.
At the bottom of the sea.
Yeah.
So I think with that, I mean, I think we've stretched these tentacles as far as they can go.
Yeah.
So if you have any interesting, Mind Flayer or Illithid comments or stories, you can share them in the comments below. While you're doing that, click like, subscribe, even share.
Sounds good. Check us out on nerdarchy.com.
You can also join the conversation over on Reddit.
So until next time, my friends, stay nerdy.
One of the problems with Mind Flayers is they're not going to be by themselves because they like to travel with thralls.
Yes. All different kinds of things. In the book, I don't think it mentions many of these thralls, does it?
Nah,
it's
but
got-
any intelligent race with a brain,
Yeah.
a mind flayer wants to get his tentacles in there and wiggle them around.
I mean, it's got a power called Dominate Monster.
Okay,
So-
well, anything. A.K.A the Mindflayer, A.K.A the brain-sucking monstrosity. With me, I have.
I'm Ted.
Dave.
And sorry to cut you off, but he's not a monstrosity. He's an aberration.
Yes.
Much different.
Very
Much
different forms of terribleness.
So okay, so this segment that we do, we've done a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons monsters before.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we're going to go over the monster and then we're going to think of like cool ways to use it that maybe people aren't using them.
Absolutely. So, basically, you've got it's a high-level monster for our group anyway. It's a Challenge 7, and it's got all kinds of awesome abilities that you can use to tackle.
Well,
and
plus
threaten players.
that challenge 7 means something completely different in 5th edition.
That's for just him.
Just than any other edition.
Nate here, Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, and today we're going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition monster, the Illithid.
The XP budget is kind of weird because of
Yeah.
a CR1 for a CR1 party may be completely different, or a CR2.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely some CR2s and 3s that can like one shot
Absolutely.
characters of that level. So
Yeah, it's definitely you still have to figure out based on the party strength and how deadly you want the encounter to be. And